This is the Between, a special two-shot of The King in Shadows. We are going to kick off with some Janus Mask narrations that we did not have last time, and then we will dive right into the day phase at that point. We have a brand new question to answer, which will be the question that will be used to resolve this threat, but we'll talk about that in a moment. It looks like, well, who has Janus Mask they need to resolve at this point?
I have two.
Okay, Josiah and Vera does. Well, Vera, if you're ready, you can go ahead, but it's up to, yeah, but whoever wants to go first can go first.
Um, sure, I can go first. Actually, Josiah, if you don't mind going first, and let's
Sure.
jump.
Happy to do so. So I think the scene that we see is. Do you want to read out the prompt first, or just go straight into it? So
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
prompt is narrate a flashback to the time. Sorry, let me narrate a flashback to the time when you were in your mother's womb that shows even then dark entities were interested in you. So I think the scene we see is Sunday morning services at an Anglican church. And this is high church. There's gilded decorations everywhere, glorious stained glass windows, all sorts of pomp and circumstance. And you'll have to forgive me due to my sparse familiarity with the Anglican order of worship in particular here, but the church choir is loudly singing a hymn together, and our camera sort of pans from the choir around to the full pews and zooms in on one woman who's in a very advanced stage of pregnancy, and she is has her Bible open and is singing along with the hymn, and as at the striking thing is, as the hymn goes into the chorus, she feels a kick in her womb, and when it goes into the chorus again, there's another kick. Every time the choir starts singing, and all glory to Jesus in heaven, is precisely at that moment, the infant in her womb kicks in a more violent way than she has ever recalled experiencing before, and it's so traumatic that she stops singing, and when the next chorus comes around, she feels nothing.
Fantastic, thank you. Vera?
So I've got two. I'm gonna try and tie them together. But my first one is to narrate a flashback to my childhood that shows the high level of privilege I was born into. And so I think we open up on a wide shot of Central Park in New York City. It's a bright spring day. The trees are full of green. Well-dressed families go up and down the walkways. We could see two adults holding the hands of a young girl dressed all in blush petal pink as they make their way deeper into the park. The girl is clearly barely able to contain her excitement as they get closer to their destination. The man is who's on her side is a square-jawed black man in a tailored navy suit, and he says, "And what animals are you excited to see today?" And the woman on the other side, who's a fair-skinned woman with this serene disposition, she answers first and says, "Oh, I'm not sure. There's so many I've never seen before. What about you, Evangeline?" And the little girl exclaims, "I want to see the elephants." The woman continues to explain, "I don't think they have any elephants here just yet. I do recall some camels, however." And the little girl does nothing. She sort of just brushes off the comment. Her excitement is unwavering as the trio passes the threshold into Central Park Zoo. Inside, she is gobsmacked at the sight of all the exotic animals. In one area, seals bark for fish. In another, camels look unconcerned with zoo patrons as they chew on cud and walk the length of their cages. The couple continues to slowly guide young Evangeline through the zoo. She's quick to point out the various animals she'd learned that from her studies with her tutor, the rhesus monkeys, the lions, the pythons. It's another animal that draws her in, though. As the pair of adults go to a nearby refreshment stand for Italian ices, Evangeline's eyes meet that of a solitary jaguar splayed out on a thick branch. She wanders closer, as if hypnotized by the beast's amber eyes. She gets to the cage, alone. She stares up at it, tilting her head to take in all of its spotted beauty. The jaguar grumbles a little growl, not a growl of warning, but of invitation. Evangeline hears it and slowly raises her hand up to the bars, inching them between them, as if to reach out and touch the creature. The jaguar, in turn, carefully begins to lurch down from the bars towards the girl. Before Evangeline can touch its snout, something breaks her from the trance. Evangeline, her father cries out as he wrenches her away from the cage. The jaguar snarls in response. As Evangeline is torn away and scolded, she can't help but look back at the jaguar. Their eyes are locked, and a feeling stirs in her that she had never felt before. It's pity for a powerful beast like that. But seeing that, she swore to herself from that day that she would never end up in a cage like that. And I think that's when she sort of bolts up awake in her bed. And as she gets ready for the morning, she puts on her kimono, and I imagine her room's fairly messy. She has clothes sort of strewn about everywhere on every surface. But as she gets to her vanity, she sees the shirt that she was wearing from the day previously. And she sighs to herself, holding it up, seeing it smeared with blood. And we flash back to that day in front of what should have been the night tap, but instead there was just a organ grinder with a monkey, a little rhesus monkey. And as Evangeline watched the growler carriage pull off, she turned away and then started to feel something stir in her. And she looked up and realized that the sun was setting. And as the organ grinder made a motion, putting his hand on her shoulder to ask if she was okay, her eyes opened back up, and they were that sort of jaguar amber color. And we looked down at her hand, and instead of nails, there are talons, and she instinctively slashes back, cutting across whatever surface, but enough to draw enough blood to splatter across her top. She realizes what is happening and that she's losing control. She grips herself. The monkey that was with him scatters off, but she begins to rush back to Hargrave House, and she remembers that that's why her top was bloodied up. But that was the darkened threshold to narrate a scene in which you hurt an innocent because of your curse.
Fantastic, thank you. So your threat is the King in Shadows. There is a play that is being performed in the city that is causing people in London to behave strangely, and for what seem to be like ripples in time and space to start kind of ripping through the city. And this is all stuff that Hargrave House has to deal with because your remit in it London. And hold on, I think my speaker just got swapped.
Sound fine now.
Do I sound okay? All right.
Okay, yeah. I'm glad it wasn't. I thought it wasn't my end, but you definitely glitched for a second.
Yeah, I got like a weird.
I thought you were being theatrical. I thought it was.
No, I got a weird like warning from my computer. I don't know what it was about. Okay, I'll start that over. So, The King in Shadows. There is this play that is in London that is being performed and causing people to behave strangely, causing ripples in time and space to take place. The whole city is just really quite changed and strange because of this play. Hargrave House has to deal with this situation because your remit is to protect London. And you did answer the previous question that allowed you to watch the play. And now, having watched the play, you have unlocked the next question. The only way to deal with the play is to basically disrupt it from the inside. And so your question is, what roles are you intended to perform in the play? We have met some of the roles: the journeywoman, the chorus, the occluded king is, I suppose, a role as well. Um, the knave, the duchess, the prince. Maybe there is a collective role Hargrave House has to play. Maybe you're each supposed to perform individual parts. But in any case, you answer the question however you wish. If you're correct, you can resolve the threat by playing out this role during the play's next performance, ending in the tragic fall of the occluded king, or by breaking out of this role and ruining the production itself, thereby returning order to London. I will note here that we have seen a lot of sort of meta things going on with this particular threat as well. And so this resolution, indeed, the answering of the question, can also be quite meta. You may not be performing in an actual play. Maybe it's something else kind of going on. Maybe the play is the sort of it's the sort of a layer of artifice that has descended over this whole situation. So very, very open to interpretation sort of question and resolution. You have one clue currently, which is the line from Lysistrata: "There is no beast more stubborn than a woman, and neither fire nor leopard more ruthless." Obviously, all the other context from the story so far is applicable as well, though for mechanical purposes, you have to find clues in order to overcome the complexity. If you haven't already chosen new Dawn questions, you may do so now, of the two that you're allowed to choose, or you can leave them the same as you wish. And it's a new day phase. For those of you who have lots of conditions, and that would be Vera and Josiah, you might want to do the vulnerable move this morning or this afternoon, which is essentially a scene where one of you is doing your vice and you then role play to sort of clear your condition. You have a conversation, you talk about something. You can also stumble on clues using this move as well. And it's a great opportunity to talk about your character's past a little bit more. You can have vulnerable moves with characters who don't have conditions as well, because you can still stumble on clues and do these other optional things in the scene. And if you need some leads for the investigation, you have not yet spoken to Larkin Creel, the critic who's currently locked up in Bedlam. You have not yet had a chance to what are some of the other places here? Well, that's kind of the main one, I guess. You've already been to Ranelagh Chapel. You haven't yet been to the little pub that only appears at night, or is otherwise unstuck in time. I'm open to that pub appearing via use of magic or some other sort of way, if somebody wants to try to do that. And I'll note that you have met a few characters as well. They're noted in the side characters section of the threat sheet. Marie Litton, who is in charge of Ranelagh Chapel, Dr. Rodney Walters over at Bedlam, Hypatia Quint, one of the patients at Bedlam, Larkin Creel, this critic, the organ grinder with the dancing monkey, who appeared and has appeared multiple places now, sort of a strange figure, and then the tragedian, who Mr. Falcone and Burnright met, and physically assaulted at one point. So I want to go around the table and find out what everyone's interested in doing. You don't have to find too many more clues here, so we'll just get a little bit of investigation done, some vulnerable moves if we want to, and then we'll transition to the night phase. We'll start with Mr. Falcone.
I think I will head back to talk to Dr. Walters and to is it Larkin?
Yeah, that's
who I didn't
critic.
get a chance to talk to.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. Burnright, you're gonna go with, or you're gonna go do something else? Or do you want to go get one of your contacts in play? We haven't really done that yet.
Well, that's how I was wondering if I could do both or if I just have to do one, because I'd like
we could start with the contacts, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's read that move just so we can set it up properly. It says, the Hargrave House informals: you skim money from the Hargrave House accounts in order to maintain a network of spies and enforcers. When you put out word that you need help from someone, select one of them from the list and roll with presence. Why don't you go ahead and do that now?
Okay.
Which one do you want to get in touch with?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. I think probably The street urchin, I think.
Okay, that would be Kip,
Kip
right?
Longfellow.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go ahead and roll with presence.
I think it's 9. I don't think I have anything in presence.
You do not. So a
Yeah.
9.
So it's straight up 9.
On a, let's see here, 79. They show up right away. Or they show up, but they take a while to show up, or they want something in exchange for their help. Keeper's choice. We'll have Kip show up early in the morning, so we'll have that scene. Let me check in with Vera and Josiah first. Vera, what do you want to do today?
Definitely want to get some vulnerable scenes in. I would like one with Bernie because I feel like that would be fun.
Okay, that sounds good.
And if you're okay with it, also with Josiah, just because I've got 3. And then after that, I figure maybe I go to the baths where the theater was last performed, or where the play was last performed.
Oh yeah, that's a great great move as well. Like the sort of aftermath of the previous evening. Josiah, what do you want to do today?
What I would suggest is that as Vera is perhaps lounging around in the common room of Hargrave House, Josiah comes down dressed up, and when she inquires, he says, "I'm going to church. Would you like to come?"
Vera is, I think, in one of her kimonos, and her hair is just sort of messy and tousled. Clearly, she looks worse for wear, despite the evening that she had last night. Just say, well, yeah, I'm always up for a new experience.
I love it. So that's going to be the focus of your scene then. Okay, good. I'm into that.
That is my vice. Is Sunday morning mass is my vice.
We'll start with, I think we have the scenes kind of ready to go then. So I'm going to start with Mr. Falcone over at Bedlam. Dr. Walters, it's far too early in the day for Dr. Walters to be there, though he left word that you should be allowed in whenever you want, Mr. Falcone, because you're Mr. Falcone, the undeniable. And you can be taken to the room that Larkin Creel is staying in. Just to remind everyone his backstory, what happened with him. He was a theater critic, and he saw the play and shortly thereafter was admitted to Bedlam following a bout of distress. He had published a review of The King in Shadows, a scathing review, and so he had a lot of connection to the play in this way. I think when you see him, I think the two of you couldn't be more different from each other in appearance. He has tangled, dirty hair that looks like it's like recently gone white, like very, very white. He has kind of a facial deformity, and he is just sort of, I think they just let you in. They don't even like make you stay outside. They just open the door, and you can see him sitting in this chair in the far corner of his little cell, as far back as he can sit. And he's just sort of rocking back and forth. Mr. Falcone, what do you look like in the scene?
Today I have dressed more modestly. After the events of last night, I don't want to draw attention to myself. So just a ordinary, black suit, as many of the people around London would be wearing, umbrella in hand, etc., etc.
Larkin is rocking back and forth and just sort of mumbling. Down below, in the vastness, gems and gold a-glittering, unspeakable wealth, unknowable knowledge. He is reaching out for you, calling you home to him. Would that I could return to the cold embrace of the void, but the void has rejected me. And now I am truly alone. Down below, the inky vastness down below. But you can still return. Mr. Falcone, what are you feeling right now? What do you do?
What I want to do is I want to close the door so that it is just us.
Mhm.
And as I close the door, I'm going to drop the pretense that I carry with me, the show that I carry of being this very noble person, and I'm going to act human
Mm.
in private,
Mm.
and I'm going to gently approach him,
Mm.
and I'm going to say, Mr. Creel, please allow me to help you. Do you wish to recede into the void, or do you wish to return to the world of material things? How can I help you?
I wish to be returned to the court of the king. I but glimpsed it, and I must return. And the only way I can return is to be unfettered from this mortal coil. That is the only way to reach his murky palace, down below in the vastness.
I want to, I'm going to mark my reflection to make use of one of my items from my collection, which I want to use to give me advantage on what I want to attempt next, which is I want to use Cleopatra's Veil to somehow help him remove this veiled, this curse that is acting like a veil on him, and bring him back to who he was before he saw the play somehow, to try and heal him.
Oh, this is a good scene. This might be a good chance also to learn about your reflection since you're marking it.
Yeah.
Be thinking about this for a moment. I'm going to cut over to Burnright. Burnright, Kip is at the back door of Hargrave House. He is, I mean, he's fucking disgusting. Let's just lay it all out there. He's probably about like 12 years old, maybe not even that old. Quite short, smells of wet hay. He's weirdly red, just red. And he says, I heard you needed help, Mr. Burnright. He calls you Mr. Burnright. How can Kip Longfellow be of service today?
Hello, Mr. Longfellow. Thank you so much for keeping your ears open. I appreciate that.
Anything for
your
you,
standing?
Mr. Burnright? Anything for you?
A man of your standing, I assume, could always use a little bit more coin in their pocket. I have need of your services.
Very well. So long as it doesn't require me to, well, do something untoward, I am open to hearing what you have to say. Let us begin our negotiation, Mr. Burnright.
Yes, Mr. Longfellow. Yesterday I ran into a gentleman wearing all black with a white mask on. And I believe there's more of them that are gathering. And I was hoping that upon your travails about the city, you could perhaps keep a note if there's more than one or where they're gathering.
I have seen these fellows, Mr. Burnright. Well, I just assume they're fellows. I can't imagine why a proper lady would want to get mixed up in something so bizarre. Nevertheless, I have seen them, and I would be more than happy to keep an eye out, and I will make quick work of it and report back to you this evening. Of course, my memory is best jogged when I am in front of a delicious meal, and I know, indeed, I have heard that you make a proper good pork pie here at Hargrave House. Is that true, Mr. Burnright?
That is quite true. Madam Whitaker does a wonderful job in our kitchen, and I can make sure that you are on the list. The only other thing that I wish to ask of you, Mr. Longfellow, is to make sure that you do not get mixed up with these nefarious gentlemen, for I do not know if they are gentlemen indeed. They may be quite strange, so anything of weird happenings, please report that as well.
Fantastic. He's going to do this. I will. I'm essentially going to give you. Well, let's see. How does the move work? If okay, so on a 12 plus on a 10. Oh. Okay, so he will help you. I will go ahead and let you take the information move with advantage since he's helping you, and we'll just see what you learn. If you were inclined to bump up the roll to a 12 plus, or actually no, it would be a 10 plus, wouldn't it? That wouldn't be any better. No, you're okay. If you want to go ahead and just roll with advantage, I think it's probably going to be presence, we'll say 3d6 plus presence. Let's see what he's going to eventually learn.
5.
5. How interesting. I'll tell you out of character that Kip Longfellow is going to be murdered by these tragedians. If you want to avoid that, you should go ahead and put on a mask.
I'll take a mask. I cannot. It's not my job to take care of these ruffians, but I still feel a little responsible.
Mark whichever mask you wish. You have past, future, or there's the single mark of dissociation as well. And he will deliver a clue to you before the night phase starts. So make a note that you have one clue coming to you from Kip.
Just a quick meta question about the game rules here.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an incentive? Is the unique mask for a threat sort of like a free mask that doesn't affect the countdowns that you ordinarily have?
Yeah, so the thing about so when you're typically playing a campaign of the Between, you have up to 3 threats active at one time, and you can use the threat associated mask while you are actively investigating that threat. It's just another button to press, basically.
Because the ones on the sheet are like once you start using marking them off, like that's sort of a timer toward like
it's a timer for your character. Yeah. This is like a freebie. It's like a
Gotcha.
freebie essentially. But once you've resolved that threat, you no longer have access to that threat specific mask. In this context, it doesn't really matter because we're just doing a one-off. But we'll come back to this in a moment, Burnright. Or I think we're gonna have a scene with Vera. So Vera and Burnright are gonna have a scene really quick. Josiah Pebbles, just something you'd like to do while you're waiting on Vera before you go to church. Some research or something.
We can. I mean, I was setting up a ritual last night.
Yeah. Oh, we can do that.
That never got resolved.
Let's do it now.
Yeah. I believe what I had said that I was trying to do was to contact the least dangerous spirit that I knew to extract information about this new mystical threat that was hitting London.
Let's go ahead and roll Rites of Salt and Smoke. I'll give you the benefit of your ritual chamber, even though strictly speaking, it's a day phase. But you kind of set it up. I'll give you the benefit of it.
And what I'd like to say is that the reason that I know of this relatively friendly spirit is because I used my ticket for an open seance from a famous medium.
Nice.
And went to that at some point. The ticket is a memory of my visit there. And this medium introduced me to this relatively friendly spirit.
I like it. So you're going to mark that for advantage as well?
Yes.
Okay, so between advantage and a +1 on sensitivity, you should have a really good roll coming to you. I do need you to tell me how perversion of Christian rituals is offered to the dark entities.
Yeah. So I mean, with some like really dark entities, you got to go hardcore to get them in. In this case, what I take one of the bottles, the holy water bottles with have sort of a strange yellow tint that were in the ritual chamber. I set up the pentagram and like scrawl a rune in the floor, and then I open up this bottle and pour what is in fact Josiah's urine that he has gotten a corrupt police to bless.
Yeah.
And I sort of sprinkle that out over the ritual area while calling on the spirit by name to come and answer my call.
I love it. Roll 3d6 plus 2, take the 2 highest, or 3d6, take the 2 highest and add 2.
All right, it's 522, which so that's a 7 plus 2, 9.
9. Okay, so on a 7 to 9, the magic works imperfectly. You're going to choose both an effect and a complication. Which do you want?
Second, I've got up in front of me. Where's that? Okay, easier to. So the effect. And what I wanted information. So in this case, I would say that what I'm going to be able to do is observe another place or time.
I like that.
That I'm going to be given a vision
Mhm.
of something useful in response to my opportunity. And the complication, immediate unwanted attention.
Oh, fun. We like that. Okay, so that is great. What place are you trying to observe?
I don't think. I think I am asking for information. In return, I'm being given like instead of like giving me a straight answer, I'm like sucked away into a vision of something.
Okay, very good. Okay, I like that.
And so maybe it's the first time, like the setup for this play, or
I've got it.
Okay.
If you want to add some extra detail about the ritual, you can, but otherwise I'm going to go ahead and just go straight to narrating the outcome. You're standing in your circle with all the things you've had to do to make this happen. Fine way to spend your morning. And you can feel this one particular entity. They're always kind of hovering. You can feel it sort of coming forward. They're always kind of like back, and then they come forward. You still can't quite see them, but you can feel its forwardness. And it's starting to stroke your ear, the curve of your jawbone, tracing up past your lips, up to your eye. And quick as a blink, quicker than your blink, it puts a tiny pinprick in your eye. And when your vision clears, you see that you're in a different place. You are in a throne room, glistening, jet black, walls encrusted with jewels. And you see, sitting on the throne, the occluded king from the play last night, except you have every reason to believe this is the real occluded king. Let's paint the scene, everyone. Looking at this occluded king, how can we tell, compared to the stage presentation, that this is the real deal? What's the difference?
What's striking is that, like, on the actor who played the occluded king was wearing this costume that made him look like unusually large, sort of looming over, 7 feet tall, looming over everything. And this occluded king, this real occluded king, is larger than that, but also normal human size. And it depends, like, as you blink, like different aspects of him, different sizes resolve, and each one is absolutely true at the moment. But it's not like he's changing. He's more than one thing at once, and the human perception, Josiah's human perception, just is shifting between these overlapping existences.
In place of the black cloak that he was wearing, it is instead these sort of black, throbbing, tuberous tendrils that adorn his body, but also seem to spread out from his body and reach out into the vast darkness of the court.
He has multiple shadows that seem to splay out in sway towards light sources. At any time that he leans one or the other, they bend into a spiral behind him.
When you stand in his presence, you feel growing colder and colder and colder and start shivering.
I'm going to give you a clue for your observation here, Josiah, but then there's going to be a pretty nasty complication. The clue is, as you're observing the court, there's a strange sort of courtier ritual here in the throne room of the occluded king. There are people, shades, approaching the occluded king, and they are hand delivering their suicide letters to him, which he takes to read for his own amusement. And then the shades go off to work drudgery jobs within the shadowy halls. Such is the fate of people who take their own lives. That's your clue, though. You can interpret the clue however you wish, but that's what you've observed.
Hand delivered suicide notes. Yeah.
To
Okay.
the occluded king. Yeah.
I've actually got a great idea of how to resolve that one. So,
And now, the occluded king is a dark entity like any other, but he's one with a lot more immediate power, and you're on his home turf. And you can see him finally taking notice of you, and he is trying to draw you in permanently into his shadowy realm. I would like the night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail to resist him?
what I am afraid is going to happen is that I will emerge insane, like the reports I've heard of the people in the insane asylum who've been touched by the occluded king.
It's worse than that. You will emerge with the occluded king having essentially taken you over, and you are his vessel to walk among the lands of mortals. Go ahead and roll with, I mean, it's probably sensitivity, but I'm going to say it's actually vitality in this case. And
I sense a mask coming.
And I think because you're tainted, I'm going to put you at disadvantage as well.
Definitely a mask coming.
Let's see how it goes.
Yeah, that's a 5-1-2. So it's
I will go ahead and
1.
Okay. Oh no, what was
1,
the
2
final
minus
result?
1.
Yeah. Not great. I'll narrate the outcome. You can choose to cancel it with a mask if you wish. But essentially, the way this works is you think you're just looking into the palace, but then you realize the moment he turns to look at you with his baleful red eyes that you are, instead of the dark entities coming forward behind you, you are coming forward to him, and you are quite suddenly there. And when you return from the vision, the world looks different to you. Everything looks impermanent. Everything you see, you just see its timeline. You see the masonry of Hargrave House crumbling. You see, maybe there's other servants in Hargrave House, and you can literally see their lifelines draining away. And no matter what you choose to do, no matter what you want to do, you can feel your own self a little bit like in Get Out. You can feel yourself sinking. You are sinking away as the occluded king takes over your vessel. And furthermore, there's no God. So just add to all that.
So I think with what makes the most sense here is for me to mark the
Mask of Association.
I'd say the cosmic passage. which increase your sensitivity by 1 and reduce your reason by 2. What I would suggest is I have the perception effects that you narrated, but without the loss of control.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
And
Okay, I like it. Yeah.
mechanical impacts as a way to reflect why
I
I'm
love it.
suddenly a little bit more insane and more in tune.
We'll tie a condition to what's just happened to you. We'll say that you we'll think of a name if somebody has an idea, but I like the idea of the condition being connected to you seeing the decay of everything. Let's cut over to Vera and Burnright. Or I'm going to check on Mr. Falcone briefly, and then we'll check in with Vera and Burnright. Mr. Falcone, I love your plan for dealing with, indeed freeing Larkin Creel from what's this veil over him. This is going to be I'm going to make it the night move. Even though it's the daytime, I'm making the night move because I think the circumstances warrant it. The physical circumstances, the locational circumstances. What do you think is going to happen if you fail right now?
I'm afraid that it is not going to work, and he is going to take my dagger from my belt and plunge it in his chest and send himself over to the occluded king, which is what I was afraid he was insinuating earlier.
I think it's worse than that. The occluded king will take particular interest in you as well. So
fair enough.
I love this idea. I think this is almost certainly sensitivity. You are, however, using a thing from your collection, so that gives you advantage. Is there any other thing I need to take mind of here?
No, I think that's it.
All right. And then when we're done with this scene, I'd love for you to tell us about the statue.
Of course, yeah. Cool. Am I good to roll?
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. Okay, so that is 8.
Okay. Yeah, this is really good. I think the complication is going to be you're going to pull him back from the brink, but the experience is very traumatic for him. You'll be able to question him, but he will expire shortly thereafter.
You know what? I would like to use a mask to save this person.
Okay, very good. Let's have the scene first of what it looks like when you break the occluded king's hold over him.
Okay. So yeah, I'm going to take him by the hands and try to match his breathing to calm him down. And then I'm going to ask him, please trust me. I believe I can help. This belonged to a good friend of mine. I'm going to put the veil above his head. And I'm going to I'm going to call to the spirit of Cleopatra, and I'm going to ask her to, if she still has love for me, please help me bring this soul back to the world of the living, for he has many things to accomplish. And then I'm going to release his hands and wait for him to act or react.
How can you tell it's worked when you remove the veil?
He will remove the veil himself, and his expression will have changed. It will be considerably different to what I've seen before. It will be what he was before he saw the play. His eyes will look different towards me. Yeah,
I love it. He looks at you, and at first he's just like shocked and surprised, like, where am I? What's happening? What's going on? Oh my God, the play. You know, he's like, it's all kind of like rushing in. But then, like every other mortal, he eventually sees you and starts to be drawn in by the look of you. And so you've got him where you need him at that point. I want to talk about the statue, though. How does the statue reflect your this situation? Like, what's happening here?
Yeah. So I'm going to remember the last time I saw Cleopatra, and you, and in the memory you see Andre and Cleopatra share an intimate moment, and as they get dressed, and she is heading off to meet with the Julius Caesar and his entourage and show him around Egypt to get his support in the upcoming war or something. Andre stops her and says, "One last kiss," and removes the veil, and they share that goodbye. And then she leaves and forgets the veil, and he takes it. So in representation of that moment, the statue's lips are going to crumble, and algae, seaweed is going to creep up from the lips, and it's just going to start dripping water that is from the Nile.
I love it. That's great. You know, we didn't talk about it last time, but the statue, you have followers that sort of maintain it or at least watch over it. What do they do to ensure that no one can find the statue or otherwise interfere with it?
I imagine it's sort of like the inside of a Egyptian pyramid. So basically, they've set up lots of traps around, and they make sure that the machines are well oiled and the arrows are sharp and that sort of thing. So they rarely, if at all, access the central chamber where the statue itself is. That is only for Andre's eyes.
I love it. Let's have the scene with Vera and Burnright, and then we'll swap over to Josiah and Vera as well. And then probably I'm thinking Vera, Burnright, then Vera and Josiah. We'll have Kip come back to Burnright, and then maybe we'll do a little follow-up with Mr. Falcone and Larkin Creel, and that'll probably be the day phase. You should have enough clues at that point to go for answer a question. So let's have the Vera and Burnright. Whose vice is this? That's
I think since we're at the house, I think it would probably be mine.
Okay, what is your vice?
Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm. Oh, fun.
It's Pharaoh card game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that Vera comes down and she's sort of dressed in her daily wear, different blouse, obviously, because the other one's bloody. But she sort of rubs Kip's hair as she passes him by, and she sort of leans on the counter where Bernie is and says, she sort of pulls out a deck of cards and starts to flip them. So, Bernie, how about a game for breakfast? You and me.
Oh, Miss Kaufman, I absolutely would love a hand of cards here. I'd like to talk to you about this last day, but yeah, it's been wonderful. Shall we take our usual table?
Yes, but I hate it when you call me Miss Kaufman. It's so formal. You're also muted.
Oh, you're muted, Burnright.
Shoot. I understand, Miss Kaufman, but for every insistence, I must insist back. For you are part of my employer's house, and so I must keep with the formalities. However, I do know that we are much more alike than anyone else who lives in this house. We have a man who pretends to be a god. We have a boy who talks to demons. And then there's us, the real people. I think the real killers of the house. So, shall we play?
Well, I suppose you get to deal in then, and she'll hand him the deck of cards to cut. Funny though that you say that about your employer. I should hope that he wouldn't hear such talk, pretending to be a god. I mean, I'm not afraid to say it to him, but I'm sure he wouldn't like hearing it from you.
Well, just because I serve Mr. Falcone does not make me one of his followers. Perhaps in a different life, I would be drawn to someone of that persuasion. But in this particular one, I do not. He helps give us all power here. And to that end, he is a wonderful tool, and I will serve my master the best that I can.
Yeah. Speaking of masters, did you see that play last night about that king of Shadows?
I I did. I'll be honest with you, I'm not much of a cultured person. And at this point, he takes off his hat. You're the only person he takes his hat off around. And you notice he just has a bright orange shock of a mohawk, just kind of matted down underneath the hat on there. It's like, I could not make heads or tails of it. What did you see?
Well, I saw something, and I saw it popping up in the play at some point, and and the damnedest thing happened when I was out yesterday at Randley Chapel. That there's a symbol, that kind of like spiral thing. It kept popping up, but when I first saw it, there's this woman I was talking to, and started just coming out of her forehead, just starting to crack open, like someone was cutting into it. There's blood everywhere. Then I saw it on my chest, and I don't know. I know that there's something odd going on here with all this occluded court business, but it's just too heady for me. Just give me
That
like
is
a
fair.
just give me like a nice sea creature to beat up, or a vampire steak or something.
Yes, for easier days for sure. But that is quite concerning. May I ask a favor of you, Miss Kaufman?
Sure, but you're a couple quid in the hole already. And she looks
Uh,
down and sort of pulls out her hand, which is the winning hand.
uh, he immediately reaches into his back pocket and just without, it's as if it's just a rote of passage for him of just putting more money out there. Like, it doesn't matter how much it is, it's gonna get, the money's gonna show up and get put out there. Um, the yes, so I'll place that. Could you slap me, ma'am, as hard as you can?
Sure. And she just wallops him across the
No
face.
hesitation whatsoever.
Okay. Well, it doesn't seem to be a dream, ma'am. The what I was hoping with these weird things is that with the shadows moving in the wrong direction. Have you noticed this phenomenon? Uh,
Among
the
other phenomenon, yes, I have.
I don't believe we're even here at this point, Miss Kaufman. Uh, I am not a learned man, so I cannot tell you what the scientific facts there are to know if you are really you. At that
Honey,
point, I'll
that's a little too existential for my taste this early in the morning, but it's something to consider.
I,
have I gotten a winning hand yet?
I love it. I think this, I mean, do we want, this feels like we're getting pretty close to being done with the scene. Is there anything else we need
Yeah,
to
I'm good with that, yeah.
do? Uh, were you trying to clear the Mark of the King, Vera, or?
I think I ended up clearing. I've seen it. I think
Oh,
sharing with
okay. I'll take
Burnright
that
that
too.
I've seen the
Yeah.
symbol.
Yeah. Oh, very good. You can go ahead and clear that. And then, because it was your vice, you get to stumble on a clue or invite Burnright to ask you a question about the past.
I'm gonna do a clue.
You get to define the clue. So this is your chance as a player to put your thumb on the scale of what the answer is. So, because you get to stumble on it. And it can be something remembered as well from last night. Let's check in with Mr. Falcone briefly, and then we'll get Josiah and Vera at Mass, or church, or whatever the service is. Mr. Falcone, once Larkin settles down, what do you do?
I return to my acting of being the undeniable,
Mhm.
and say, well, now that you are with us again, we require your assistance. Please tell us, how can we stop this play from continuing and defeat this king among the shadows?
Make the information move with presence.
10.
Very good. He says, the last thing I remember before finding myself here. I was being judged. I was being judged to assume some sort of role. I don't know what precisely, but I could feel something pressing down atop my head. And then I felt a wave of shame, as if I had done something to disappoint someone. And then I heard from the shadows, spat at me with utter contempt. You are not the one. And that's the last thing I remember before I, apparently, did something to end up in Bethlehem Royal Hospital.
Interesting experiences. We will try to find some use for them, although you haven't given us much.
That is your
And-
clue, though.
Okay, yeah. As I'm gonna walk towards the door, and I'm gonna say, "Well, thank you, peasant," and I'm gonna stop and just drop the facade for a second and say, "Get yourself out of London. Get to safety, just in case." Well,
This is-
then I will leave now.
As you're leaving, he says, "But are you going to still be in London, sir?"
I'm not gonna answer. I'm gonna announce my departure, and with much pomp and circumstance, I'm gonna leave, and I'm gonna wave at all the staff that is there and say goodbye. And yes,
You have momentarily brightened the day of gloomy Bedlam Hospital.
yeah.
Fantastic. Vera, what was your clue you stumbled on?
I think last night when she was with Theodora at the play, before Theodora left, she had given her a playbill for the play itself, but the bill itself looks like it was made or printed in the 1500s.
Oh, so it's more like an illuminated manuscript. In a sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like Gutenberg Press or something like
Yeah,
that.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. If somebody wants to note the clue about the play critic being judged unworthy, that would be great.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and frame up this scene with Josiah and Vera. So Josiah, frame it up. What's happening here? Oh, you're muted.
Sort of like I described before, but with the slight twist that Josiah comes downstairs, dressed in his Sunday vest, and Vera asks him what he's doing, and he says, well, I'm going to church. Would you like to come if you're not already dead?
Well, I don't think I'm dead, but I'm always up for a new adventure. Sure, why not?
It's so hard to see. It can't be long now, but let's go. Yes, the bells are already ringing. We must hurry.
Vera just sort of shoots a glance back at Burn White, right? Like, what's going on? And then follows him out.
And as they're walking down, he's just looking around with his eyes much wider than usual. He's like, ooh, 3 weeks, 6 months, 15 years. Pointing to like an old woman who's walking down the street. He sort of tips his cap to this woman as he walks by. The bells of the church are ringing. This is Victorian London. There's churches like every couple blocks.
Josie, you feeling all right?
Oh no, and yes.
You're acting even more peculiar than you usually do, and no offense, but you smell a bit like piss.
Well, part of that was intentional. Part of it, well, you're not going to kill yourself, are you? I would advise against that.
Yeah, I ain't got no plans to do that.
Oh, good. Don't worry. If you're tired of living, you won't have to wait long. But killing yourself, very bad right now. And he leads them into the church where the opening hymn is already starting. And as they sit in the back, he's still a little twitchy eyed, but what you notice, you've been around Josiah for a while. You've seen the way he perverts and twists traditional Christian rites and uses that, invoking dark powers and like generally being contemptuous toward God. And as you look over, he's saying the right words here. His eyes are a little buggy, and he's sort of intensely focused, but he is actually praying the Christian prayers and singing the Christian hymns. And there's this sort of weird look, besides the weird look of craziness, there's this look of intensity on his face.
Yeah, when the hymn is done, she'll lean in and say, "Shug, you all right there? You sure you're all right?"
Well, not
This-
entirely, but no. All my life, and he's speaking quietly, maybe not quite as quietly as he thinks he is, but he's speaking quietly. We sit in this back pew. Wait, I'm not supposed. He says, "I have always felt these dark powers, but every now and then, this decadent feeling of wondering whether God is actually real. Don't you? Isn't it delicious? Sublime?"
Try not to think too hard on it myself, but
I think about it constantly.
you're a bit more cerebral than I am.
Well, yes.
Why did you want me to come with you to this? You never asked me to come to Mass at all. And all the times we've gone to Mass and that we've lived together.
It's important to get your soul right with God before you die.
My soul's plenty right.
Of course it is. And then he stands up and starts singing the next hymn.
In contrast, Vera just sort of rolls her eyes and sinks back into the pew, just waiting for it to be done.
Very good. Josiah, are you clearing tainted here, I guess, by going to church? Are you feeling or something else?
Yeah, I mean, this with the way the scene developed, it was either me that or not. The Neither Fire nor Leopard is more ruthless, but our conversation did not go into Vera's womanhood direction. So
yeah, I'm okay
tangent.
with either conditions. I think those will be fine. What about you, Vera? Did you clear one?
I think I did. I think she's too disturbed by what he was doing.
Indeed, indeed. Josiah, you get to either stumble on a clue or invite Vera to ask you a question about the past.
If this were a campaign, I'd absolutely choose the question about the past, but it's a one shot, so I'll do a clue.
You get to think of the clue, so be thinking of what it is, or you get to come up with it.
Okay.
I'm going to give the clue to Burnright, and then that'll pretty much wrap our day phase. Kip, this is later in the day, near evening. Kip is sitting in the kitchen. He wanted to sit in the dining room, but that wasn't going to happen, I'm sure. He's sitting in the kitchen, and he's got a pork pie in front of him. He's stuffing it in his mouth, and he relays a story to you about how he followed a group of the tragedians around the city, where he followed one and then came upon a group of them. And he says, "I went above and beyond the call of duty, Mr. Burnright. When I saw that group of those weird fellows with their white masks and their black cowls and robes, when I saw them going down below into a basement beneath a pub which wasn't there at first. It seemed like it just sort of appeared out of nowhere. Sometimes things happen like that, I've noticed around this city. Have you noticed such things, Mr. Burnright?"
Well, not so much that you need to concern yourself with Mr. Longfellow. And if you do notice something like that, make sure to stay clear.
I think that perhaps I see more than people do in general, generally speaking. That is, maybe someday in the future I shall have a place at Hargrave House. Maybe you'll be
I will
making pork pies for me anytime I want.
I will look him very sternly in his 12-year-old beaming face. It's like, Mr. Longfellow, be careful for what you wish for. This is no life for anyone, much less anyone who wishes to be happy. This is solely for the damned and the lost. And for you, Mr. Longfellow, I hope you live a much longer, happier life than that.
Right. But this pie is quite good. And he takes another bite. And he says, I watched them for a time down in the basement of that pub. They were saying all kinds of strange things, putting on some kind of performance, it seemed. It was all focused on something that they were all standing around in a circle. You might be wondering if I got a good look at what they were standing around in that circle.
It had occurred to me, Mr. Longfellow, and I will rifle around. I will notice that I'm quite a bit lighter than the normal money that I have on from losing so much to Miss Coughlin.
Hmm.
So I'll think, um, what is your asking price?
Oh, ho, ho, ho. He says, well, I have more to tell you than just what I saw, Mr. Burnright.
Hmm.
In fact, I didn't just see what they were dancing about. I nicked it. It's in that bag over
Oh.
there that I set down by the door.
I see, Mr. Longfellow. As far as your wish for joining the Hargrave, you're going to have to be staying with us for a little bit, I'm afraid. If I believe you took something from someone very powerful, and you will not be safe if you go back out into the streets.
Will there be more pie?
I will talk to Mrs. Whitaker about it.
Then consider me your willing ward. And he dives in, takes another bite, and he points his thumb over the shoulder at the bag, at the sack. Inside the sack, this is your clue. Inside the sack is a crown, a willow crown, dripping with blood and black ichor.
I will. He's a man of the world, I guess. I will take a little nip of the blood.
Mm-hmm.
Is that real blood or paint?
It is blood. It's tacky, nearly dried. He says, and he kind of like leans back with a satisfied look on his face, and he says, that feels like something somebody at Hargrave House would do. Steal some magical crown from a group of weirdos. I consider that my application, sir.
It will be considered duly, Mr. Longfellow.
And
I will.
yeah,
I'll try and find Mrs. Whitaker to
yeah,
see if we have another
make up a room.
very small room. Yeah.
Josiah, what clue did you stumble on?
A vision of Vera's imminent death that both is and is not destined to occur.
Very good. I love it. Okay, so we're going to take a break. A couple of things before we go on break. If you owe me Janus Mask, be thinking about your scene. Second, be thinking about the answer to the question. What roles are you meant to play, either collectively or individually? You can answer the question, interpret the question however you wish. The clues, you have that line from Lysistrata. We have courtiers hand-delivering the occluded king their suicide notes. A playbill from the King in Shadows all the way back from the 1500s. Larkin Creel judged unworthy. a vision of Vera's imminent death that is both that both is and is not destined to occur, and a willow crown dripping with blood and black ichor. You actually have that in your possession. And so we'll take a 10-minute break so you can be thinking about things. I'm going to actually leave the video running in case you all want to chat about the solution, and people might want to see that chat. And but I'm stepping away for 10 minutes, and we'll come back and do the dusk phase.
I'm going to step away for 2 minutes to prepare stuff, and then I'll be back to chat about stuff people want.
Chatting about my death, apparently.
My biggest regret for the scene that we just did is I wish that I had given you a cigarette and then just had like a weird moment of like, did we just do this? And like hand you a cigarette. That being said, I don't have very many ideas. How about you guys?
Nothing right now. I mean, there's there's obviously sort of a tie between Lysistrata and Vera, but given the whole stubborn woman thing, and Vera is certainly stubborn in her ways, but that's the only one that I have any connection for. Yeah, I don't know.
Is there, for the play that we watched, was there anyone that was getting judged? Like, could Vera
I mean,
be
she
judged?
could be like the journeywoman character because she was going, she was being led through those mesas, those sort of, not mesas, but those like vistas of hell, and she was the one who was sort of being taken to the court. But yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I have
maybe
a thought. Yeah,
go for it.
Oh,
no, I was just
yeah,
gonna say, like the playbill for the 1500 one, that could just maybe set up the instructions for this, for whatever theory we come up with.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, we could just say it's there in the. I like that. Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
coded in there.
It could be different to the version that we saw, and the version in the 1500 is the one that they need to play out.
Yeah.
And what I was thinking is there is the courtiers handing their suicide notes. So I thought that the play ends with all the characters killing themselves via a fire, which is the there's one, the line from Lysistrata. And because it's a one shot, that could be like how we go out.
So we have to set each other on fire.
We have to set each other on fire.
All right. I mean, I'm not opposed to it.
Wait. Do we know that that you're some sort of shapeshifter?
No.
No, we don't know that.
We don't know that.
Yeah. There's a thing mechanically that says that you only know it until she fails a quickening, and then she reveals it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, because like there's that line, like the leopard also is more
Yeah,
ruthless.
that's what I mean. It's like there's a connection there with Vera, but I just I don't know how to tack the other stuff onto it, which is the important part aside from the playbill, which I think that's pretty cut and dry.
I've got a really good proposal. I'll link it in 1 minute once my water finishes boiling loudly in the background.
Okay.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, I'm curious to see what the proposal is, but I think there's something here. I don't know, like. I mean, I'm not opposed to setting each other on fire.
Larkigriel being judged unworthy, you are not the one. Maybe that means that Vera is the one that the occluded king is looking for. So that could cover that clue.
You have to wear the crown.
You have to wear the crown, yeah.
And it's gonna be a backfire. Like he's been looking for just the right person. Vera is the right person, but it's way worse because you're also the leopard.
Yeah.
So here's this is not the whole answer, but this is a climactic scene that I have based on these clues. Is that at a certain point in the play, Vera steps forward to deliver a note the suicide note to the Crimson King, to the Occluded King rather. And the twist is the note we have given her to deliver is his suicide note.
Okay.
And so
Uh,
oh, go on.
Yeah, so that brings in both, the visions that I saw of the courtiers hand delivering their suicide notes, that Vera sort of, brush with potential brush with death, getting into the sort of the weird quantum double occurrence stuff of the Occluded King, and then we can tie in. I mean, obviously, Vera as central ties in with the leopard thing and other that, but I haven't tied everything together. I think there's got to be other parts of our plan to.
I think there's something
to
there
disrupt this,
because
but-
I think we were talking about because I like what Andre and Bernright were talking about with their theory. I think maybe, and maybe I'll save this for the video when Jason gets back. But I think the playbill for the 1500s play, that's like the original ending to the play.
Mhm.
And I like the idea of this sort of Vera having to be the one to deliver the note. Maybe it's the idea that the beast has to be crowned. So like because like there's something about the, obviously there's some sort of tie with Vera being sort of like a werecat and the leopard and the woman thing. So I don't know.
I've got it.
Yeah.
So, we're having Vera deliver the king his own suicide note, but we can't just like write a note and say, this is your suicide note, unless the person who writes the note is wearing the crown when they write it, thus making it the suicide note. I propose that, anyone could do that. I think Josiah is someone who's spiritually close-ish to the king now is a choice, someone who could temporarily don the crown to write the note, that thus giving it the spiritual power to take effect when delivered.
And maybe you have to, because Larkin wasn't worthy, maybe we have to write it in his blood as part of the ritual.
That's a nice add-on.
But I also think like thematically it might just be appropriate if it's if it's
Or
more
the
of,
blood
like,
of
a
the
metaphorical
crown,
thing.
which is dripping with blood.
Yeah, there's
itself.
that too. Because like we have to figure out what our roles in this are.
Yeah.
Which is the tricky thing.
Well,
So,
I'm thinking
you're-
you're probably gonna play either the journeywoman, which is the main character, and probably we are the chorus. And I was gonna say that we need to set the king on fire, but maybe now that you mentioned the crown, maybe Josiah wears the crown to write the note.
maybe
And
he's
then
the prince
we have to
and he has
switch the crown onto the king's head during the play, and then hand the note, and that is going to, those two things together are going to activate the end of the play.
Yeah, so maybe with the three characters, the characters we've got has the chorus and the king,
we have the
the
journeywoman,
Duchess,
the
Prince, and
boatman.
Knave. Oh yeah.
Yeah, the journeywoman, the boatman, the duchess, the prince, and the knave. I think if we're going with this route, obviously Vera's the journeywoman, then Josiah could be the prince because he has the crown and he's sort of the most connected to the king, and the conclusion of the play is him taking the place of the king, becoming the new king in shadows, if you will. And then I think
That is very Josiah ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's a one shot. I feel like it'd be a cool ending for him. But I think that then
Would not be the first time I've had a character commit dramatic suicide at the climax of a Gauntlet one shot.
There you go. Bernright feels like a boatman, like because he and Vera sort of have like a close connection. So I feel like he'd maybe be the one guiding, and then like Andre is
maybe the boatman is the one whose job it is to deliver the king to the actor playing the Occluded King.
Yeah, maybe he's the one who's supposed to deliver Vera and the suicide note to the king, and then I don't know.
Yeah, the boatman.
And then I think
the
I was thinking
prince.
Andre would be like the knave, right? Because like
Yeah.
The other thing I'd propose for dramatic purposes, and we'll see how Jason wants to play this out, but I think would be neat if we role play the end of our plan, like the coming onto the stage and all that, and then flashback Blades in the Dark style to the preparation of the note. But we'll see
cool.
if that works out with what Jason has planned.
So let's go over let's just go over the clues again, maybe.
Yeah.
So the playbill is just the instructions.
The
That's the
instructions, yeah.
original play. The line from Lysistrata and the vision of Vera that points to her being the journeywoman being led to the court for possible imminent death.
Yeah.
The crown is for Josiah to don and become and sort of take the place after the king kills himself. Maybe
Well, the primary purpose is for is to write a suicide note with the mystic power to actually make it his own suicide note.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but that
Um,
happens beforehand. Like we write the note before as part of our preparation.
I'm just trying to figure out
Yeah.
the roles and like
Yeah.
the way the play would actually go, the ending. So so Burnright would be the boatman leading Vera there. Who would meet the knave who would then maybe be the one to deliver the note then because he's closest to the king besides the prince, but the prince is already sort of being prepared to take the crown and ascend.
Okay, so like it could start with me being the boatman harvesting the shadows,
Mm-hmm.
and Vera's one of the shadows that I collect,
Mm-hmm.
and then take Vera to the knave, which would be Falcone, and then Falcone do they have the suicide note to give, or do they have the crown? No,
I think they've
Josiah's got the crown.
Well, I mean, it could be twofold. Maybe it could be that Andre has both the note and the crown, but he's going to take care of crowning Josiah and giving, sort of anointing him into as a sort of, royal crowning ceremony. But that's just a thought.
Oh, okay. So what we could do, like maybe Vera just already has the note, the suicide note.
Yeah.
So
I
I'm
think
collect. Okay,
we prepared that in advance because we were showing up to this play with a plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
gotcha. So I start collecting the souls. I'm like, oh hey, it's a Vera soul. Come on with me. And then we go to. Do we just take you to the? Then we just go to the culted king, and then those two have a scene
Yeah.
with the crown, and then
Okay.
it's you and the king. That's how it ends, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll sort that out now that
I'm back. Yes.
Yes.
All right. So let's swing right over into the dusk phase. Let's do the quickening. American, let's see how it goes. See if you'll be with us or
And
not.
is this a disadvantage because I've got drained?
You are drained, which is not great.
Oh.
What'd you get? You're muted.
That is a 5.
A 5. Is this going to foul your plans for resolving the king in shadows?
No.
The quickening has decided that no, thank you. Maybe I even like the idea of the quickening as responding to the events in London, right?
Yeah, it could be. Could be. But no, I'm going to mark mask.
keep it at bay. All right, we're good.
Yeah.
It could dramatically happen in the key moment in the play as part of
yeah.
the.
I think if we had her roll this before the break, we might have incorporated.
Yeah. But it
enough.
still works because the clue includes stuff.
Okay. Let's
Does not involve Vera turning into a were-leopard and slaughtering people.
So you would take the condition drained. You already have drained, but I would probably just make you. The sort of upcoming rewritten version of this move would have you turn a key or put on a mask, but you've already put on a mask, so we'll just kind of leave it as it is. You're good to go. You're maintaining. Let's go ahead and, in the interest of time, we're going to skip painting the scene about Hargrave House, and let's go straight to answer a question. So, what What's the answer here? Let me remind you and viewers of the video of the question, which is an interesting one. It's not complex, but it's certainly weird. What roles are you intended to perform in the play?
Yeah, so Josiah is the prince.
Okay.
Your man Friday is the boatman.
Okay.
Andre will be playing the knave.
Okay, very good.
And I will be the journeywoman. And the way that we came up with this is
Do we want? Are we doing this now, or we're just answering the roles?
I just need to hear the clues that are gonna
Okay.
that account for all of this.
so the playbill for the 1500s, that is the original play that we're going to be performing. So our
Oh,
roles are closer to that, and that is the way that the play is going.
So
Just
they've
like you
added
for the clue.
stuff in the centuries since.
Yeah.
Essentially, got it. Okay.
The lines from Lysistrata and the vision of Vera is sort of like the connection of putting her into that journeywoman sort of position.
Oh, very
she's,
good. She's stubborn because she's insists on going to the underworld to free her family, right?
Exactly.
And then of course the imminent death. Okay, love that. That's great.
So at the climax of the play, and this is sort of our plan to disrupt it as well.
Mhm.
Vera is going to be brought on stage by the boatman, carrying a suicide note to deliver to the occluded king.
Ah.
A suicide note that we have prepared in advance, that is the occluded king's suicide note.
Oh, very good. Okay.
And to
I
give
like
it the mystical power to actually make this effective, Josiah will have written the suicide note himself while wearing the crown.
Very good. Oh, this is very fascinating. I love this.
In Larkin Creel's blood, was it, or how did we tie in Creel in? I forget.
I think he was supposed to be in the play, but because he was unworthy, Vera is now the sort of journeywoman figure.
Yeah, the idea is that he was judged unworthy because the one the occluded king was looking for was Vera. So it was not Larkin, it was Vera all along.
Oh, very interesting. Well, and I also love that one thing we should note here, I'm sure you all did when you were discussing this, but it makes sense that it's Vera as well because of the neither fire nor leopard more ruthless, right? There's a reference to, love all that. Okay, well, so that's all really interesting and great. I love all that. What about for Mr. Falcone and Burnright though?
Yeah.
What extra context is getting them involved here?
For the play, like what we do in the play?
Yeah, like what, like how do we know what role you're supposed to play?
Sure. Well, Vera is going to be starting off in the bloom of life, and then as the boatman, I come along and I collect the souls.
Oh, I see. So okay, very good. So this is just we just have to have a boatman because of because of this version of the play. Very good.
Yep, so we got to take the souls and ferry them to the nave.
What's your role in this, Nave?
I think the justification also was that because of the moment that was shared earlier between Vera and Burnright, then in character they're going to share that journey together of the boatman and the journeywoman. I think if that's what Jack was saying, and I think the role of the knave, if I understand, is like this roguish character. So it's kind of like somehow the opposite of the role that Andre plays in real life, which is this noble. So he's like downcast. And I think his task would be perhaps to approach the king and switch the crowns somehow before the letter is delivered, or something to that effect. To do some sort of action like that, and then that would also activate the magic, the spell.
Very interesting. And so you intend to perform this play and actually draw forth the actual occluded king. Is that the plan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought we were going to perform it ourselves, or we were going to disrupt the performance that we attended. I was unsure on that point.
Well, I said we were performing.
It sounds like you're doing your own version of the play.
Okay,
yeah,
sure.
like you're doing the original source material here. This is
in that case, one of Andre's jobs could be gathering a crowd to be the audience.
Right. Yeah. I love all this. Let's see if this is gonna work, first of all. So let's go ahead and roll +2 since you've incorporated all 6 clues in. Who would like to roll it?
Someone other than me should roll.
Other than me, because I roll like ass.
Go for it, Andre.
I'll go. Okay, let's do this. Oh, that is a 12 plus 2,
Oh.
14.
Wow. Okay. Really big success. So we'll handle everything in montage like we did last time, except now you are the performers in the play. I think it'd be fun if you perform it at that bar that we haven't seen yet, the Night Tap, the one that appears at night. That all sounds great. Before we leave this dusk phase, does anybody want to narrate any Janus Mask prompts that they owe?
I do have one. Yes, I'm happy to do
Go for
it.
Yeah.
The prompt is narrate a flashback to your childhood that shows even then people were willing to suffer in order to make you happy. So we see a vision of the interior of a palace, and a young boy wakes up, and as he wakes up, a group of servants immediately start to clean him, to bring him food, and to dress him for the day. As he climbs down, he is dressed in a tunic that carries a symbol of the Egyptian god Horus, usually represented via a falcon, if I'm not mistaken. And as he approaches the balcony to be seen by his followers, we see in the distance the pyramids, and we see all the peasants approach and begin to chant his name, Amenhotep, Amenhotep, Amenhotep. And yeah, the scene ends there.
Nice. I love it. Good. Thank you. Any other Janus Masks?
I've got one about my past that I have to share real quick. I'll make it pretty quick. You see a strapping young man wearing just trousers, suspenders. It's wintertime. He's got a bright red mohawk, standing amidst 5 or 6 men splayed out onto the snowy ground around him. He's got a broken nose and he's missing teeth and he's covered in blood. As you see other gang members running away from him down an alley. So he yells, "That's right, you bloody plonkers!" As he goes around and grabs his men up off of the ground, like, "We did it, mates. We did it. This is our turf now." And he ushers them into the bar. They're sitting around. They're starting to push people around. And an older man comes in a pinstripe suit. And they start to mess with him too. He's like, "Oh, you're pretty fancy for being in here." And the man just looks at Burnray. And he goes, "Do you know why they call you penny mobsters?" He's like, "What's that about?" "When they come to collect your bodies or to pull you from the jails, it costs 1 penny to free you. That is how much your life is worth right now. So maybe something to think about." As the man slaps down more money than Burnray has ever seen to buy the rest of the drinks for the night.
Fantastic. Thank you. Is that it for Janus Mask? All right, then.
I don't think mine
Oh.
has anything to play out. Mine's just a
Cosmic Passage. Yeah, nothing happens. Yeah, you just do the. I like how you justified it though earlier. That was really good. Okay, we know what we're doing tonight. We are going to be narrating the play. We will have an unseen still, something else happening on that same night, and I think it's going to be the prison Hulk at Woolwich. This is on line 11 of the London at Night Unseen tab. Moored near the industrial town of Woolwich are a number of hollowed out old warships that serve as temporary prisons for convicts set to be transferred to Australia and other penal colonies. One of these prison hulks is HMS Bellerophon, now called Captivity. A too young cook is walking above and below deck, passing out the evening's portion of hard biscuits and pea soup. Everyone does prompt 1. Prompt 2 will be for I can't remember who did what last time. Let me look. Jared, you can do prompt 2. Jack, you can do prompt 3. And David, you can do prompt 4. Everything is set. We will do the night phase. We're going to kind of kick off with the paint the scene, and then we're also going to paint the scene about the night tap, and we just have to finish whatever you're going to do with the Occluded King by the end of the unseen. So let's go ahead and take 5. We'll come back and we will do the night phase. It's the night phase, and I am ready to be entertained.
One quick note, a change from what we established before. Since we are performing this ourselves, and we need a Occluded King, I'm going to be the Occluded King and not the Prince.
Okay, sure. That sounds great.
Yeah. So we hadn't really established a role that the Prince was doing in the performance anyway. And
that's a good point. Yeah, I actually, for some reason in my brain, I thought you were being the Occluded King anyway. I don't know why I thought that, but I did. But first, the prison hulk at Woolwich. How do we know the captivity is a nightmare of filth and desperation?
There's an eerie quiet over the prison hulk, especially at this hour. The prisoners know that if they get too loud or too out of line, that the punishments will be severe.
The rats. Like, if you thought that if the boat was low in water already, just the sheer number of rats in the bottom are weighing it down even more.
As a someone who's a historian of 19th century France, the HMS Bellerophon is among its illustrious career is most famous as the ship that took Napoleon from France to Britain for his final exile, before he was sent off to St. Helena for his final exile. And what makes the captivity such a sign of spiritual desperation, filth, depravity, is that the stateroom that the great emperor slept in while he was traveling has been turned into a pen, where men are captives are just piled on top of each other, struggling struggling to have room to breathe. It's just this warren of filth, and the exact opposite of its prior brush with greatness.
How does one follow that? As someone who is not a historian, I think that a group of prisoners are just trying to cave out as if it were a prison on land, but without realizing that what they're going to do is probably sink the ship.
I love it. The Night Tap, a simple pub that only appears at night. You actually see a number of the tragedians there, mixed in, intermingled with normal folk. The front facade of the pub sits at the back of a dark, obscure alleyway. Among its mysterious patrons are also patrons featuring gold masks. They seem special and set off from the others. The air is smoky and reeks of beer. Let's paint the scene, everyone. Being here feels like being unstuck in time. What do you experience that makes you feel this way?
There's a moment when Vera is walking in that one of the barmaids, she's carrying a tray of drinks, and she stumbles and all of the glasses topple off of the tray. And when Vera goes to turn to help, she sees the bartender or the barmaid walking from the same position originally. But this time she doesn't spill the drinks.
There is a man in one of the back corners on the shorter side wearing an old style French military uniform and just refusing to talk or interact with anyone, but just loudly conversing to himself in French as he just sits in the corner of the room.
Tonight, there's a doorman who only speaks backwards.
Andre thinks that he recognizes some of the people in this room, some of the people that he has met throughout his life. He thinks that he sees Cleopatra. He thinks that he sees Julius Caesar. Then, for a moment, is that Joan of Arc? Is that Casanova? All these people that he's met and interacted with, just on the corner of his eyes, and then he looks and says, "Oh no, it's just they look like him." And at the very end, the last person that he sees before they begin is a certain artist he met a long time ago. ...
Very nice. Back at captivity, Jared, please narrate a scene in which we see the convicts at leisure. How do they entertain themselves? How do they maintain their connection to God and society, if at all?
The larger of the prisoners have found the best rats that are available. And in a special room that they've carved out a circle for the rats to do battle or to run through mazes. Some of the prisoners have taken it to heart to build miniature versions of cities that they're from, trying to remember, complete with little churches. And only those that are of the meanest temperaments will come through to try and wreck those villages.
A little stage has been prepared at the night tap. Lanterns have been lit. The curtain is raised. Act 1. How does it kick off? Whoever wants to narrate Act 1 may, and if anybody wants to add to it, they can.
Quick note, I know this is not relevant because we're just as a one-shot, but in case you wanted to demonstrate the rule for people, I do have the Cosmic Passage marked.
Yeah.
And this does note that if any of the hunters has the Cosmic Passage mark, you may reveal a mastermind clue during one of the acts.
Very good. Well, I tell you what, that it would be pretty great to have a mastermind be here at the actually, per the rule of the King in Shadows.
We did roll a 14. So.
Yeah, per the rule of the King in Shadows, previously resolved threats and masterminds can be encountered at the night tap if you were doing the full campaign. So they excuse themselves and vanish if approached. So but anyway, all that said, who wants to kick off with Act 1?
Boatman?
I think it starts off, we see Miss Kaufman on the stage. She is swooning, she is depressed, and she is writing a note. And then dramatically from the side stage, the boatman appears, complete with cape thrown over his face, trying to do his best. He is not a natural actor and walks quite stiltily across the stage. Goes like, young woman, for this is your choice that you have chosen. Now I will take your soul. And we'll have like Vera will do like a little pantomime of offing herself. And then I will guide her gently to the other side of the stage where there's a boat, and we'll gather, and I'll try and grab some people up out of the crowd onto the boat.
Audience participation. All right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then lead them over. And I'll be looking for someone or something.
You'll be happy to know that people in Victorian era London at the night tap love that just as much as we do in the real world.
I think when Vera is getting into the boat, she does glance into the crowd and she sees a familiar face, a dark-skinned woman, that glinting sapphire jewel on her neck. sort of smiling.
Anything to add?
I will only add that there's a quick flashback to back at Hargrave House before we set out to this play. In fact, no, I'm gonna hold on. I'll do that flashback later. Is it a better moment a little bit later on? Second act, I think.
Very well. Let's return to the prison hulk at Woolwich. Continuing on, Jack, please narrate a scene in which we see a convict being punished by a ship's officer. What did the convict do? How is the punishment being carried out?
We can hear him crying out before we actually see him, but he's begging for mercy for them to stop. And we finally get to him. We see a younger man, maybe in his early 20s. He is crumpled over, folded over into himself, weeping from pain. And we see that one of his hands, the bones in his fingers have been smashed to bits. It's gnarled and broken and bloodied, and two guards stand above him, sort of smirking and laughing at him. He says, "This is prison, love. This isn't a place for pleasure." And we can see that the young man's trousers are partially opened, and one of the guards leans down and whispers in his ear, "Next time you think about trying to escape like that, any kind of escape, whether it's physical, pleasure, anything of the sort, remember this." And he digs his heels into his fingers once more, and he cries out again, and we pull back out, and we can see other prisoners sort of looking in the direction of this torment, all of them cowering and terrified of knowing that if they are caught doing something similarly unchristian, that they might be caught and punished.
Speaking of unchristian behavior, Act 2. Who's in charge of Act 2?
The knave, probably.
Yeah, can do that. I think we left off with the boatman and the journeywoman on their journey, and they're going to encounter a number of other spirits that interfere in the process, trying to prevent them from getting to their location. And with every approaching spirit, I think Vera is going to start getting more and more angry, her emotions coming to the surface, almost as if they are something is going to erupt, with the boatman very, very gently maintaining her present and focused. Meanwhile, the knave and the king, the knave bows to the king as the king instructs the knave to prevent this incursion into his land. And as the knave bows and says, yes, my lord, he is going to sneakily steal the crown and change it with the other one. And then he's going to jump off stage. And as he does that, someone is going to step on his fingers as he crawls back and goes somewhere to hide.
Any other details to add?
Yeah, there's a moment where Vera, she's feeling the curse starting to brew in her, and she's keeping it at bay as best she can. But there's something about the play; it's sort of mystical energy. It's drawing something out of her, and her eyes start to flutter. And when they do, they flip back from that sort of more human color to that amber cat-like color, and then back again. And she looks to Bernie and says, "Well, get the note up to him."
will grab Miss Kaufman's hand. It's like, you are the strength of 1,000 men that I've ever met.
Josiah, did you want to add anything?
I'll kick off Act 3, and then hand it over to Vera to narrate the conclusion.
Sounds good. Then let's make our last journey over to captivity. David, please narrate a scene in which we see a convict finding comfort and companionship within the bulkheads of captivity.
So it's late at night. It's down at the very depths of the ship in the lowest deck, which previously would have been used only for storing ballast and cannonballs and stuff like that. This is an overcrowded prison ship, and prisoners have been put here too, even though there's about a foot of bilge water strewn with trash and other more disgusting things covering the floor a foot deep. And we zoom in on a emaciated man lying on a hammock, alternating between shivering and hacking coughs. And there's blood on his filthy tunic, and his eyes are sort of rolled back as he hacks and shivers and coughs. And then there's a splashing noise, and you see a big burly man, body covered in tattoos, who steps up next to this shivering, hacking, sick prisoner and strokes his cheek and puts an arm around him and says, "Shh, it's going to be all right. Everything's going to be fine." And then slowly take one of his big, beefy hands and puts it over the dying prisoner's nose and mouth and closes it and holds it, and with it, while the other hand holding his body down, and holds the mouth and nose closed for several minutes until the body spasms and then is still.
Act 3.
As the characters, the actors take the stage, we cut back to earlier that day at Hargrave House, in Josiah's ritual room. And there's a little writing desk that he has set up. And we see him, make some preparations, draw out some sigils, etc. And then he pulls out a dagger and cuts into his arm and lets the blood drip into a chalice before binding it hastily. What's striking about it is that he is wearing the crown of the occluded king. And he takes up a quill and he takes the glass of his own blood and he dips the quill in it, and intones, "This is my blood. Write this and remember me." And in his own blood, writes out on a scrap of paper, "I am the occluded king. My unlife has been long and terrible. With this, I relinquish it and go into the unknown no more." And then the camera lingers on this note for a moment. And then there's a subtle shift and it zooms back out and we see Vera holding that same note as the boatman leads her onto the stage where Josiah is waiting dressed in the full costume.
Vera, she sucks on her teeth a bit, holding back the urge to growl, and she straightens her posture up and recites the line very poorly, because while she is a performer, it's taking a lot to try and keep whatever's happening at bay. She hands it off and bows as she does. She lets the king read from the note, and it's at that moment when the lights in the tap go out And when they turn back on, they are in this sort of shadowy place. The stage or the bar floor is no longer wood. It is now this sort of liquid, almost the color of dark bilge water. And Vera finds herself kneeling in it. She sees behind her Burnright next to an actual boat. It's covered in sort of black tendrils that were covering the occluded king previously. And we see these two large black hands come up out of this sort of watery floor and hold Vera up. And I'll let someone else take over from there.
I'm particularly interested in hearing how we know the power of the play and the king is broken.
Yeah, so what we see, and I'll let someone else narrate sort of the epilogue here. As we pan around, we see a host of shadows watching this scene in this sort of shadow realm, in the spots where the members of the audience in this tavern were sitting watching, with just pricks of light where their eyes are. And as Vera kneels in the bilge water, these dark hands emerge, and one of them reaches up toward her, sort of clenching. But instead of grabbing her throat, it grabs her hand and then pulls it down to cover the mouth of the king, who is lying in state on the table, as the king uses Vera to smother himself.
And I think that when she's doing that, her bestial form is starting to come out. Her skin is starting to shift and tear. It's not a pretty transformation like in some of the movies. It's much more visceral. The skin peels open like a corn husk. There's blood on fur, on spotted fur. The talons start to rip through her fingertips as she grips tightly onto the white mask, pressing it down further. And we can now finally start to hear her growling.
Burnright will charge to the side of what was the shadowy stage, and I will yell out, "Lady Vera, show this thing. We are not rats. We are killers."
Meanwhile, Andre has done his job. So now he's somewhere backstage, and he's finding that actor that stepped on him, and he is smothering him and murdering him and making him pay for that action. And then he's going on a bender. He's going to have some fun. Yeah.
I love it.
And just to bring things full circle, as Josiah playing, or as the actor, the form of the occluded king, whether it is Josiah or the king himself or who knows what, spasms and falls still. It's like a sudden inhaled breath, and the shadows that have filled the room, or appeared to fill the room, or that filled this other room, it's hard to tell, just suck away like they've been inhaled, and the harsh the light of the gas lamps filling this tavern are suddenly restored, as everyone blinks, and then slowly starts to applaud. Someone calls out, "Great costume!" At Vera as she sits there sort of half bestial on the stage, with a body lying there, wrapped in the king's costume.
I love it. That will conclude our night phase, and that would bring us to the dawn. In the interest of time, we're going to fast forward through some of this, but basically we would go through and answer dawn questions. This time you resolved a threat in addition to answering a capital Q question, and so you would get both those XP. And I think everybody got Echoes in the Night. I noticed something for everyone. And then quite a few of you would be answering yes to your other questions as well, particularly Mr. Falcone there at the end. But quite a lot of others as well. Everybody would mark your XP, you would advance. I will note, this is just something for all the four of you, really. We have changed the between since this character keeper was made. We changed it for Ghosts of El Paso, and it's gonna be changing for the whole game, where you have to have 6 XP instead of 5 to advance, because 5 is just a little too fast. But everybody got an advancement, and that's sort of how that would go. Then we would choose rewards since you did resolve the threat. This obviously doesn't matter in a one-off, but in a campaign, you would get to choose some rewards. And I'm going to clip that here and I'll read them aloud for people watching the video. But they are, this is one of the rare threats that gives you new masks to choose from. The Mask of Comedy, the Mask of Tragedy. I'm not going to say what they do. People can go play it themselves to find out. There's also some regular reward type things, such as a gold mask from the Night Tap, and an interesting choice of your script has been rewritten, unmark a mask of the future or clear a permanent condition, or the typical memento from another or from the investigation, ask another hunter what it is. And yeah, that's our little one-off of The King in Shadows. Let's do Stars and Wishes. I know we're kind of pressing up on time, so if anybody has to go, feel free to go. It's fine. But I'll kick off though with Stars and Wishes and say that this was really excellent. I think we did a really great job as a play group, and you all, especially as players, did a really good job sort of giving a complete story in this like 2-session, glimpse of the between. It felt very complete and well-rounded, and even though we're not getting to explore every aspect of these characters, we got a good taste of them and kind of what their deal is, and kind of what is, there's a lot of tantalizing things going on in each of their backstories that we got a glimpse of, which I think is wonderful. Loved the play tonight. I thought that was really, really well done. For something that was largely improvised, it was really, really quite good. As were the details from Captivity, particularly like the real world historical details about Napoleon. That was great. And the Echo, associated Echo, was a lot of fun too. Really, really enjoyed Mr. Falcone's Janus mask with the sort of like God King thing going on. That was really great fun. I also really liked the Janus mask of like seeing the sort of like punk bruiser version of Burnright. I thought that was really fun too. A lot of good stuff there. And yeah, as a general matter, I really liked how people were characterizing things. Jack, I thought you did a great job characterizing Vera. I just really liked her vibe. She was really fun to watch and see how she kind of interacted with other characters. You really fit the sort of American, fish out of water mold. Yeah, it was just really great, good fun. And a star for the game. I haven't played the Between in a while, and so it was kind of fun to get back to it. And I'm starring myself because I made the game, but like I am reminded that the Between gives you a lot of story. Like you get a bunch of story done in a short period of time, and I'm always very pleased by that. So it was great fun. So thank you all.
Yeah, this was really fun. Just sort of echo what Jason said about this sort of being a very tight 2-shot. I like that, not just with the unseen, but throughout the entire session, there were echoes to different things that were brought back full circle, which I thought was really fun. Particular moments that I really enjoyed. I just really like Burnright's vibe, and I like your approach, because oftentimes you'll see factotums take this sort of like devoted follower sort of perspective to being a factotum, but yours was very, no, this is just business, and I appreciated the sort of distance that he had from Andre, and also star for the bright orange mohawk. Very, very, very bold choice. I loved Andre's. I love the scene with Larkin, but I think my favorite thing that you did was that was part of the epilogue where you just went back and killed the guy because he stepped on your fingers. I thought that was such a undeniable thing to do. And it was very like the way that you delivered it was super casual and very funny.
And
Very
a nice
funny.
reminder that the more you deeper you go with the between, you realize that Hargrave House are the bad guys, right? Like, and so
Yeah.
it's like a nice
It's just
reminder
those
of
worst
that.
guys out there.
Yeah, they're worse, but they are the bad guys. Yeah.
And then I really loved, David, your sort of your RP of how affected Josiah was after he came out of that meeting with the king. I thought that was really fun, really interesting. And I like the sort of I guess the sincerity that he was having, the sort of religious experience that he was having that was out of character for him in the church, and your little details of narrating what he was seeing and like seeing like, mentioning to people like, oh, that's when you're going to die. Oh, I'm surprised that's when you're going to die. I thought that was really fun. And then Jason, I know you haven't played the Between in a while, but it's still my favorite. And my long-term wish, I know it's probably a ways out, but would be to play a full campaign of this. But I know that you're busy, so.
I also want to I want to give a star as well for I really loved getting a chance to play Kip. I really love Kip and Burnright's interactions. Kip is one of my favorite NPCs from the game, and he's not detailed really at all, but my vision of Kip in my head is always really fun to always have fun with it. So
Yeah, my stars are pretty easy. In the last 2 days, the last two sessions, I want to start with giving the star to the game itself, giving you a lot to work with very little setup and go was awesome. Like I went through and like, oh yeah, I've got these items that I forgot to bring up again in this session. And the things that I'm supposed to do to help out, like to get Andre focused for something, but all those things just help build this character. And so by doing that from the game, I was able to have these awesome scenes. Like having the scene with Vera, I when you mentioned Pharaoh and all that, I had already set up, and I'm like, yeah, well, like it's Old West game, like a Pharaoh, and I'll try and get her to play cards. And like before I even said anything, you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. Pharaoh. I was like, oh, awesome. Like our characters were very much two mates. It already felt like it was very cool. I loved from my time with Andre. Like we had a really great combination, and I was hoping. Well, I guess I didn't know. Like we'd come back to the modern day, so I'd figured out after last session that my character, while in the game in this time period, was your servant and like didn't have want anything to do with you, but in the real world, I was madly in love with you, and so it was this weird transition, but it was cool to have those moments with you. Getting to talk with Kip Longfellow, that was really fun. Like I pictured him like trying to go into this mastermind thing, and that was just another good interaction of was it three different people that I had interactions with that put me at different levels, like more equals with Farah, subservient to Andre, and then being Kip's just business person, right? Now, Josiah's the only one I didn't get to have a scene with, and that's my only bummer. That I wish we could have figured out some scene to do together on there, but I'm not quite sure. But I loved what you did with the character. I think it's tough to play a weirdo sometimes, and I think you did a good job of showing the times when he was human and showing the times when he was like, I'm just a crazy guy, kind of. I thought you did a good job with that.
David, I think one of you has to go.
Yeah,
pretty soon, so why don't you
I'll
go
jump in
next?
now.
Yeah.
I've got a few minutes, but gosh, I don't want to just repeat everything that has been said. Spotlighting all these great moments that everyone has. I'll just ditto all that, the pyramid flashback, the stomping of the fingers, the Vera's transformation, Mohawk Burnright, all that was amazing. At the start of the game itself, just the way it managed to be free flowing yet so atmospheric, with all the choices every option just like dripping with jumping off points for improvisational role play. I do wish that I think in particular I would wanted a scene with Burma, but I think in particular I think a scene between Andre and Josiah one-on-one would have been good, because I think they're both weird but in very different ways that I think would have interacted interestingly. And I was a little disappointed that didn't pop out, but that's fine. Yeah, no, just loved, really enjoyed playing with you guys, getting a chance to finally try this system out. And if I get enough of my work done this weekend, I may run a Halloween one shot of the Ghost of
St.
whatever
James
the manor
Street.
is. Yeah, St. James Street for some of my friends.
Nice.
Okay, yeah, I mean, echoing what has been said, echoing what Jack said. This is also my favorite game. For the past year, I've been playing The Between and bringing all of my friends into this game and introducing everyone. And it's been a joy to finally get the chance to sit in the player seat and see how it is from this side, and also this threat, which is so different, and being familiar with the game, it threw me off a little bit. So I was great to be surprised by it. Yeah, and I love Jason, that I had this vision of what I wanted to do in that scene, and you just let me roll with it and bring this man back from this curse.
I love that. That was such a cool scene. Yeah, so it was a great use of the collection, actually. Yeah.
I think my wish was more games to explore more of the connection and more of the background and the history of this character. The one moment that I want to spotlight is I really liked Burnright's kind of monologue to Kip, kind of reminding him again that, Hargrave House is the bad guys. You don't want to be a part of this. And that made me think, out of all his followers, this is why Andre keeps Burnright so close, because he knows, he sees beyond. He doesn't just blindly adore, and I like that for his character. And yeah, I mean, wishes playing more of this, playing a campaign, as Jack said, and getting the chance to explore this further. And the epilogue bit that I did was an homage to The Undeniable in my game, and something that they did in the threat that we did in the first one. So yeah,
fantastic. Well, this is great fun. Thank you all so much. I'm going to recommend to people to play The King in Shadows if they're doing a con game or a one-off game, because its weirdness actually makes it particularly suitable for a one-off. Like it's great, because the other threats, they definitely feel like they're part of a whole, whereas this feels so much more contained, and I kind of love it for that reason. It was really great to get to play with some of you for the first time, and so that was exciting. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your weekend. And if you're watching the video, take care. Bye bye.